we have the man that is trying to make creatine great again, AJAC. Talk to me a little bit about Thaner. Where does this story actually begin for you?
Yeah. So the American Creatine Athenor, as the company is now called, story. Uh, I think, for those who don't know, I've been in the fitness industry a very long time, basically my entire adult life. When I was in college up until now, I'm 37. So that is all I've ever done. Obviously, creatine's been around a long time. It was last year. Creatine it's blowing up. It's $1 billion product category, very popular. I think probably people are familiar with this. I wanted to finally launch a creatine product myself for one of my brands, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do American source creatine. I knew that creatine was predominantly overseas, but I did not realize that creatine is only made in two countries, not the United States at all. Creatine is made in China. That's about 80, 85, maybe 90% of the global supply. And then Alzchem in Germany, they are the company that makes Creapure, and that's it. Those are your two choices. So if you are going to make a creatine product, you're really repackaging is what you're doing. But you're either ordering from Alzchem or you're ordering from China, and those are your choices. There is no one else. Any company you see in America that says they're making creatine here, it's not made here, it's not synthesized here. It's packaged. Maybe they put into a product. They get creative with their marketing language, like you can't say made in America, but manufactured in America, American based. But in reality, all creatine is foreign sourced. So I found this rather absurd because creatine, as a product category, it's money, right? I'm like, how do we not make this here? So I dived down this whole rabbit hole of the creatine supply chain. And what I realized is that the key precursors for creatine, there's two of them. Sarcosine, it's a methylated glycine molecule. And then cyanamide, that's a nitrogen molecule. The creatine supply chain is really more of an industrial, manufacturing, agricultural, pharmaceutical, defense supply chain. It's unique that you can make creatine from these two molecules, but if you look at all the other things they can make, it's this very, very broad platform of products. And it makes sense why China invested so heavily in this, because it actually built up. Investing in the creatine supply chain ecosystem allowed them to build their overall industrial base. And then when you dive into more of the chemistry, it also makes sense why the one German company has it, because they still have the capacity to make cyanamide. They have an old school arc furnace. But yeah, it was a very unique situation to discover. It certainly went far beyond the supplement world. So my mission essentially was like, well, how can I bring this back? And that's what I've been working on ever since.
When I was reading the story and listening to your explanation now, I think for most people, when they see you're trying to bring creatine to the States, they think it's like this gym bro
Mhm.
mentality of like, oh, we're all trying to get jacked over here. But there was a lot behind like the science component of having control of, like you said, the cyanamide. Um, so
Mhm.
when did this shift, or was there ever a shift? Did China always dominate this market? Was the States, did they have a creatine market here, and then we kind of just shipped it out elsewhere?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Good question. So cyanamide. So just I'll be to articulate it very closely. It's not cyanide. People hear like cyanide. It's not cyanide. Cyanamide. 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 So that's the world's first fertilizer that was created with the Frank Caro process back in the late around 1898. I want to say. So it's about 130 years old, almost. That process, so as the world's first fertilizer, it was made in the United States for a very long time. It was made in the US up until the 1970s, in fact. Cyanamide got displaced by urea and ammonia, the Haber-Bosch process, in the 1920s, but it was still used as a fertilizer. It was still a very useful industrial molecule. Production of it peaked during World War II. It started to decline. There was a company called the American Cyanamide Corporation. It was essentially a major chemical prime of its day, was a multi-billion-dollar company. They made it up in the 1970s. They were a very big manufacturer of chemicals. The chemical industry, for those who don't know, is a trillion-dollar industry. It's enormous. Chemicals constitute the chemical production, overall chemical production constitutes about 25% of the economy, of GDP. both in the US and globally. So it's absolutely enormous. And they were a big company. They made cyanamide. They made a lot of other things as well in the agriculture industry, pharmaceutical industry. But the actual production of cyanamide itself, it got offshore during the 1970s. The old way of making it was, by modern standards, very energy inefficient, required an arc furnace, which is a very, very large installation. It's a 3,000 degree oven. It's cost $1 billion to set up. You're burning carbide and coal and limestone. That's still the only way that cyanamide is made today, although there are some innovations behind it with my company. But yeah, that process got offshore in the 1970s, still made in Germany, obviously. China essentially took it over. China heavily invested in what's called carbide chemistry. So being able to make chemicals, I'm simplifying this a lot, but being able to make chemicals from carbide, being able to make cyanamide using coal power. If you want to have a modern economy, you need these things. You need, the means of energy production, chemical production. So China went hard in the zone on it. And then creatine itself, creatine was not discovered until, so creatine was discovered in the 1800s. It wasn't synthesized as a molecule until the early 1990s. Maxim Nutrition was the company. Steve Jenner was the guy that brought it to market. The creatine was actually made in Europe. It was made in the United States by a few companies. So 1990s, the market was much, much smaller. Creatine was a big hit with, I want to say, the British cycling team, helped them win some medals. In the athletic world, made a big splash. It was made to a very high standard, pharmaceutical grade, essentially. So that was the market then. This is going back now basically 30 years. What happened during the 1980s, China hit the scene with Chinese creatine. Chinese creatine was pretty low quality. So creatine has a very strict purity standards. You basically need like triple nines at least, 99.9% purity. If your creatine is 98.9 DCD in it, it's got creatinine, it will give you a tummy ache. So, creatine, I think, got a kind of a bad reputation because of the Chinese creatine at that time, because the Chinese creatine was low quality. But China fled the zone with creatine because they had the means of making the precursors. They were vertically integrated. The American manufacturers, European manufacturers outside of Alschem were not vertically integrated. They were just doing the synthesis. So what happened in the 1990s, China floods the zone. They put all the American companies, European companies out of business. The price of creatine drops to like $3 a kilo, wholesale. Maybe people are paying maybe like $20 a kilo, something like that. So the last players standing were China and Alschem, and that was it. The production in the United States completely shut down. There was a tariff that was put in place around 2001 that was intended to protect the American creatine industry, but by 2005, all the manufacturers had left the market. So at that point, the tariff got sunsetted, is the term. And there's still an import sort of tariff on creatine and a lot of Chinese chemicals today, but China really just took over the market. So unless your creatine product says CreaPure on it, which it will have a license on it, you will see that. If it doesn't say that, your creatine is Chinese. And that's not to say that today Chinese creatine hasn't improved in quality. It's gotten a lot better. There are some good manufacturers there, but 89% of the products in the United States globally that are creatine monohydrate are Chinese origin.
With all that being said, it seems like the issue with the cyanide, it's bigger than creatine, like you've mentioned on Twitter before, where it's like 50% of plants, like the fertilizer is like derived from the nitrogen that is created from that. Again, I'm not into the science. I can be completely off there, but there's definitely some issues that I could see where concentration is mostly in specific countries. You said 90% China, 10% Germany. With all that being said, right, like you've been in the fitness space for a while. You look at this issue. How are you going to solve this? Because it seems like there's so much, like the government contracts, all the things, like you have to create the jobs to manufacture the facilities. It's going to be like a very long game for this. How did you one day wake up and say, all right, I could lock in and solve this problem?
Well, I'm a very obsessive personality type. I've had a very comfortable lifestyle business, let's say in the fitness industry, for quite a long time. I've been doing this for, like, as I said, my whole life. For 10 years, I've been working online, working for myself, working from home, as it's now called. Life was good. When I found this problem, I'm in my late 30s now. I was sort of like a man in search of a vision. I was at a point in my career where I wanted to do something bigger, something larger, something that was significant and would leave a legacy, and I could do something for my country. Uh, Creatine, as I dove into the supply chain and I realized the extent of the problem, this was it. It was the fact that we don't have the supply chain in the United States, the fact that there's a lot of things we cannot make, and they've ironically all traced back through creatine in some form or another. I thought, I knew that if I was to ever do anything on grand scale, create a massive company, solve an enormous problem, this was the opportunity to do so. And I'm a good problem solver, so I dove into it. This is an industrial problem, obviously. This goes far beyond nutraceuticals. So I put together a very good team. I sought out the best people in the world that do these types of chemistry, especially nitrogen chemistry, high nitrogen chemistry. I recruited them. I put out a call to action. I've got 20 guys that have been working on this right now since the year started. And I told them at the very beginning, this is an enormous project. We are going to attempt to onshore something that crosses defense manufacturing, electronics manufacturing, pharmaceutical, nutraceuticals industries. This is going to take at least a decade. There's going to be enormous intersection with government, with various departments. This is going to require building factories. It's going to require some heavy duty engineering. And you're either in or you're out. And I had 40 people at that meeting. And from that original 40, about 20 people, they were in. And of those 20, about 10 of them were all about it. They wanted to really essentially work on this full time. And this is all in sweat equity. No one's getting paid right now. I've been doing the fundraise thing, going about the world, seeing who wants to be a friend to the project and make it happen. But I had an awesome, absolutely killer group of guys. I was able to recruit some scientists who are quite literally top 3, top 5 in the world at what they do. So we got to work. And we've made good progress so far. The way we are bringing this back in the United States, we have a lot of chemical innovation, the majority of which I can't talk about. But we have a lot of chemical innovation around this that enables these chemicals to be made again efficiently, rapidly, higher purity, overall less cost than the legacy chemistry. So we are in it to win it. I have a 20-year time horizon for this company, locked in, as the young people like to say. And I'm very confident in our future success.
So to backtrack a little bit,
Yeah.
You said you were comfortable. You wanted to do something bigger than what you were currently doing. You saw the industrial problem. Now this piece, right? Like no one's getting paid currently, right? It's just sweat equity. You've convinced the greatest scientists, the Walter Whites, Breaking Bad visionaries of the world, if you may, to join your project. How are you able to get such great talent?
Well, that's a good question. So I've cultivated a following for a long time. Obviously, that's how probably we know each other. I have a great following on X. Yeah, I've always been of the belief that the smartest people in the world are on X or on Twitter. It's a platform that you read. It's not a video platform. It's not TikTok, obviously. It's not IG. You have to read it. And as much as people, maybe complain about the slopification and the algorithm, the reality is that it selects for certain personality type. It selects for readers. People that read are smarter people. The talent concentration on X is monumental. So the most powerful people in the world, the most competent people in the world are on the platform. And they're being honest. Maybe they're not all speaking, maybe not everyone's posting, but they are looking for what they're interested in, and they are aligning themselves with people that they believe they have commonalities with. That's why I invested so much in the platform all these years with posting. It's not LinkedIn. You're not speaking corporate. It's not YouTube where you're just in a comment section. It's not Instagram where you're just posting videos or hot photos. It's a live, dynamic, 24/7 conversation that is essentially the global brain. That's what it is. So I had 100% confidence that the most incredible people in the world are my followers. I've said this before. I have the best following in the world. I say that without any kind of ego or you're being cringe. I do. I know who follows me. I know how amazing they are. So I was extremely confident that if I put out a call to action and I present this visionary opportunity, that the right people will show up. And they did.
And when you started posting, it's already been years, over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
What was the vision behind it? Originally, were you just like, all right, I'm going to post content to be like an online personal trainer? That was like the end goal. And then eventually it evolved to something else? Or did you always have like this vision of kind of the stages of your life planned out?
Oh, I did not have that planned out at all. My original career, I wouldn't call it a career plan. My original plan coming out of high school, I went to college. I got a very useless liberal arts degree in dance, performance, and choreography. I
Nice.
wanted to be a ballet dancer, Ballet, ballet. I wanted to be an artist. I didn't care about money, didn't care about anything else but being artistic and expressing myself. I got injured really bad in college, and that permanently compromised my athletic ability, my dancing ability for the rest of my life. It was what it was. It was depressing at the time, but I had to eat it. I got into personal training because I realized very swiftly, this is around 2007, 2008, Great Recession, sort of a very big paradigm shift for the world at that time, for young people at that time. I was right out of high school. Uh, I realized that my degree was not worth the wood it was printed on. I had to do something else. I was having to do my own rehab. So I got into personal training because that was the only thing I could think of that would pay minimum wage and I could get certified like in a weekend. As it turned out, I was a pretty good trainer. I would still consider myself a very good trainer. I was a very good teacher. I like to teach. I like to learn. I was always sort of a health enthusiast, but I had no big vision for my life of, when I'm 30, I'll be doing this, and 40, I'll be doing this. I was not, whatever the, like, whatever you want to call it, the Silicon Valley archetype. I'm going to start a company. I'm going to make $1 billion. I was never motivated by any of those things. I didn't care about status, fame, finance. I just wanted to have my part of the universe where I could do my art and read books and be left alone. As it happened, I got into personal training. Personal training is a very in-person job. You're talking to people all day. It's a talk job, as I call it. Very psychological. It's personal first, training second. I was good at it. I enjoyed it. I love talking to people. I love people. Over time, I saw the market evolve. Social media tools, YouTube, Instagram, blogging. Back when blogging was king, I was like, wow. Anyone in the world can have a following. You can express yourself. You can hopefully be useful to people. People will read or watch what you write and say, and you can turn that into an audience. You can sell something. A very sort of basic lesson in business. A Kevin Kelly article, 1,000 True Fans. I would recommend everyone go read that if you're doing this kind of thing. So I saw this industry changing. I was working for people at the time. I saw how the dynamics work of getting attention, traffic conversions, and I said I could do this. If why not me? I read lots of articles and lots of blogs by lots of people. There's no barrier to entry. If you're shit, you'll know in a year because no one will want to follow you. If you're good at what you do, you'll have an audience. Be useful to people. It was never more complex than that. Like, be useful, be knowledgeable, teach people something. So I started writing, wrote articles, wrote for magazines. In fact, at one time, started posting. Worked for some very good people in the fitness industry, like John Meadows. Eventually, I decided to go do my own thing, independent. 2016, 2017. I was very outspoken politically, in quotes, never afraid to share my mind. I had seen the United States decline from 2008 to 2012, 2016 under Obama. Very disillusioned with politics. Saw Trump show up. Awesome. Total paradigm wreckage. All the people I didn't like were fucking upset that he existed. Loved it. Fuck those people. So I was all in on Trump. I was all in, like, yeah, I want Trump to win. I think this is going to course correct Western civilization. I've also always been kind of a philosophy head. Sensitive. I was a sensitive young man. I was reading about all these different things. Girard, Nietzsche, actually read the fucking books. I was like, I think this is going to calibrate Western civilization in a better direction. And it has. So I was all in on that. I got, kicked out of the industry, basically blacklisted, fucking racist Nazi, Jewish, Mexican piece of shit, whatever. I don't care. Didn't matter to me then, didn't matter now. Got on X because it was fun. It was called Twitter then. It's like this crazy conversation. You could talk shit to journalists. You could, see sort of the organic conversation happening. It was exciting times, still is. So I started posting, never stopped, and eventually it turned into things, right? I met my wife, got married, was able to build, as I said, my awesome audience, sell tens of thousands of information products to people, get people healthy. So it's worked out. I never had like a 20-year plan though, or a 10-year plan or a 5-year plan. I worked in Hollywood as a personal trainer. For many years, I worked in the entertainment industry. Fame is a kind of sort of egregore. It's a kind of entity. If you understand the mechanics of fame, you probably won't want to be famous. I didn't want to be famous for stupid reasons. I didn't want to be famous because I want people to look at me. I'm an influencer. Like, I knew that human beings will always follow people for advice, for entertainment, for knowledge. I want to be one of the useful ones. I did not want to be captured by the fame monster where I'm posting to post. That's why I think I've avoided that trap over the course of my, adult life. But yeah, that's how I was able to calibrate over time. I'm like, okay, I can do this very purposefully, intentionally. I'll have my audience, I'll have my products, I'll have my clients. This was again just fitness health focused. I've never been afraid about sharing my personality. People either like me or they fucking hate me. Cool. Like if you hate me, wonderful. I'm glad you feel that way. Good for you. If you don't want to be lukewarm, you want to be polarizing. So it worked out. But over time, at this point, I'm 37. I've been doing this for a long time at this stage. I'm like one of the OG influencers. I'm an unk, as the Zoomers say. I was like, all right, like this has to evolve somewhere. I didn't want to just start another coaching company or, promote products. Open up a gym. Do something that's health focused. Supplement company. I'm like, I know what all the avenues are. I want to do something bigger, something larger, something grand. And the creatine supply chain, that appeared at a moment in time when the United States is reindustrializing. We're rebuilding our industrial base. Stars aligned.
And with all that story, right? Like you said something subtle about, you got blacklisted in like 2017, 2018, and you talked about like being polarizing. Either it's like people love you or hate you. Do you think that's like a defining factor where it's like sometimes people just try to be too much, kind of like a Mr. Nice Guy, where it's just like they attend to everything and they don't really get an actual audience because of that?
I mean, if you were to ask me how to building an audience, like you have to be true to yourself. I don't
Mhm.
recommend everyone needs to be an influencer, like content creator. It's like being I want to say it's exactly like being an actor, but when I worked in the entertainment industry, there's two types of people that become actors. There are people who love to act because they love to tell a story. Like they are storytellers and they use their body and their mind to tell a story and they can be amazing at it. That is a worthwhile pursuit. There's also the actors, which in the vein of sort of ancient Greece and Rome, are just whores for attention. They want to be an actor because they want to be famous. They want people to know who they are. They want people to like them. If that's your motivation, it will eat you alive. The price of that's your soul. In regards to people getting attention and like being yourself, not that everyone is polarizing. Not everybody is going to be such an extreme personality. But you want to be true to yourself and express yourself. And if that resonates with people, then it does. Good. That's what you want. You want alignment that way. You don't want to outsource your own personal agency and sovereignty to an audience. What a lot of people do, which I've seen this with influencers many, many times over the years across many industries, and we see this happen on the daily, they start chasing impressions. They want the likes, right? They want the views. And their locus of self-control becomes, well, what are people talking about right now? What are sort of the hot button things I can adopt, into my, temporal, ever-changing, chameleon-like, personality. And then over time, you see those people, they just burn out. It's very hard to stay relevant because they're not actually relevant. They're dependent upon what the climate of the time is. On any given day, like what's the story? What's the position I need to take? That I can, watch my engagement go up. You can do that, but you're just going to end up being a shell. If you want to be in this business of being a known person, you have to have authenticity. Meaning what? Meaning you have to know who you are, and you have to express yourself to people honestly. And if you can do that, and it certainly is challenging for some people, but if you can do that, you will build something that is I would say, an honest audience, a worthwhile audience, a real business, a following of people who are worth engaging with. Most people, I think, don't do that. Most of them just chase the fame monster, and that will get you what it gets you. But there is a way to do this with integrity.
So you talk about that example of the actors, the two categories of the storytellers and the whores for fame.
Mm-hmm.
How does one audit and assure or calibrate to actually go towards the path of storytelling versus, being someone that's been, I don't know, consumed by the dopamine of the likes and the impressions? Like, did you ever face that in your own life of doing this? I know you didn't really care about the money. You were doing it more so to provide value. Like, was there at a certain point where you're like, fuck, what am I doing? Like, why am I posting this type of content? Like, did you ever feel like that in your journey?
No, honestly, like I've always had, I call it like a love relationship with my audience. It's very cool that people follow me. I love that people do, but it is a fleeting thing. If anything tragic was to befall me, I'm not going to open up my phone. And thank God I have you people here with me. Like you are by yourself. Like you're born to this world, and you are going to, well, maybe not. I'm going to say die alone, but in your dying moments, like it will be your own soul that you're inhabiting. So I never had that kind of moment with the audience of like, what am I even doing? Why am I doing this? I'm like, I know why I do this. I know why people follow me. People follow me because they see me as an inspirational guide, sage figure for their health, for their wellness. Maybe I'm entertaining, awesome. Kind of, at this point, I'm sort of like a big brother probably figure to younger guys, or for people who are my age bracket or older. There's someone that I am someone they've almost grown up with. But I've by my estimation, I've posted obviously a lot very consistently, but I've also always held back. Like my inner world, my inner life, my family, I don't share that.
Mhm.
And that's on purpose. Luckily I just, from working, like I said, working in the entertainment industry and, being a student of history, let's say, uh, I was able to calibrate very well where I avoided the actor horror trap.
And to touch upon that piece, right? You talked about like in the dying moments, we're not going to give three shits about our following, etc. I think on one of your posts on Substack, I think it was one of your mentors that was talking about like you have to choose where you put your energy towards. Like you can't
Hmm.
have everything. You can't be like have a 12 pack, be a billionaire, and be like the best like family person
Yeah.
in your own life. I'm 31, so I'm 6 years
Hmm.
behind you. Like how has life changed for you, if you're married or have kids, like, you're in terms of, like, your time and
Yeah.
allocating that?
Yeah. I'm married and I have 3 kids. One of my, I know him. His name's Amir Siddiqui. I call him a mentor. He had a very good model that he laid out so many years ago. It's probably at least a decade ago. He divided life into 5 categories you where you can apply your energy to. You can make money. You can be extremely fit. You have your family, and friends. You have your actual profession. Sometimes a profession and making money are not the same thing. And then you have hobbies. No one is going to be elite world class at all things. Like they're not. Maybe you're an exceptional human and you're really good at 3, but no one is going to be elite, amazing at everything. Like we all chase typically 1 or 2 things. People chase money. People, or maybe it's a hobby that consumes you, regardless of everything else. Or maybe your fitness and your profession are the same thing, and you're an athlete. But are you going to have like 12 kids and be like ultra patriarch? Probably not. You have to acknowledge that energy and time are finite. What are you going to put it towards? What is most important to you? At this stage of life, like what's most important to me is my family. So I have to balance that out with my professional goal, which is this company. Fitness at this point is like number 3, 4. Hobbies, I don't really have. Like, there isn't really anything I do right now. Like, oh, I go do my hobby. I'm like, I just make time to train, and then I'm back to business. Luckily, I work from home, which I planned that out years ago. When I had kids, I never wanted to be going off to like a job of like I have to go to the office. I'm my own boss, but I have like 3 things which I can be generally good at. The other ones, hopefully this ends up making a lot of money in the future. But even right now at this stage, it's a startup. You're making a big bet. Could all crash and burn. It's like shit. However many years of my life gone, in terms of, an ROI financially. But again, I'm not doing this for money though. I'm doing this for industrial country, American legacy. Uh, but yeah, I mean, that's why I tell you, younger guys, when you're young, it's easy because you don't have any attachments. You can focus on yourself. Be a hot fucking guy. Go have fun. Build your career. At a point, should you get married and have children, your priorities will change because how your time is structured will change, and you will need to find your own balance around that. And maybe you can be pretty good at a lot of things, but again, there's going to be some acknowledgement of like what you thought you could be ultra excellent at. You might have to leave that aside, or maybe you just make sacrifices. Maybe you are the father that's just not around that much. That's okay too. Doesn't mean you're going to be a bad dad, but like just your presence can only be in so many places at once. There's only one of you.
Right. No, I asked that because I just had a paradigm shift, like, 3 months ago. My wife and I had twins, so
Mm.
my
Oh,
whole
congrats.
yeah, thank you, man. My
Yeah.
whole world just shifted in a very positive way, but it's definitely just, like, my priorities have completely went, like, upside down, where in my earlier 20s, it was just, like, work and just look jacked.
Yeah.
Now it's
Right.
more like similar to you, it's like working out is probably 3 or 4, I have family, my career, etcetera. One thing I want to touch up on though, like when you categorize them, you said profession can be different from money. What did you mean by that exactly?
Yeah. So this is an important distinction. So obviously, the idea is like what we do professionally should pay us money, but many people pursue professions which don't pay very well, right? So people who are explicitly motivated by money, by wealth, they will go into professions which will make them a lot of money and a lot of wealth. Like it's like let's say a guy that goes, Wall Street goes into finance, wants to work at a hedge fund, wants a hedge fund. His motivation is dollar signs, billions of dollars. He has a target of wealth and status. That's what drives him, and the profession is aligned with that. In contrast, let's say, I'll use like one of my people on my team, chemical engineer, incredible chemist. He's not motivated by money. He gets paid for what he does, but he's not motivated by money. He's motivated by the pursuit of knowledge. It so happens that that pursuit also pays him, but it doesn't really matter to him. 100K a year, 200K a year. Hey, cool. Like whatever. As long as I can basically afford my apartment, I'm good. Like I want to go be in my laboratory. I want to be studying. I want to be creating things. That's what motivates him. So like, yes, professional life and, what makes you money, they do typically for most people, in fact, line up, but the pursuit of money, that is a goal unto itself for some people.
And in my own life, and just to kind of correlate with this, I feel like in my 20s, I was very much fixated on like the wealth piece.
Mm-hmm.
And my career path was going down the traditional like finance route. I moved to New York. I worked in something called prime brokerage.
Okay.
And one day I was just sitting there and I was like, dude, I do not want to fucking do this. I see people 20 years older than me and I am miserable here. And I really just went down and took a leap of faith and just starting to make the content and stuff. In your own mind, do you feel like someone should always go in with pursuing knowledge first, or is it binary, like pick one or the other, or can someone do both? Because sometimes like people
Mhm.
choose the wealth route and it ends up leading them down to a job that they just fucking hate. But also, if someone just chases the knowledge, sometimes that knowledge doesn't pay the bills. So it's like I'm curious what your take is on that.
Oh yeah, no, it's a good question. I like, if I, using myself as an example, like my original motivation, like what I want to do, be a dancer, that's purely artistic. That's all passion.
Hmm.
Like, like no one gets paid for that. Like most artists are broke. You don't do it because it pays you money. You do it because you feel compelled to do it because it's your way of expressing yourself, and you have that spark within your soul that needs to come out. It has nothing to do with money. You know, the the challenge for people in regards to what they do with themselves is you have to do something that you can survive, and then also long term, hopefully has meaning for you, where it makes the whole journey worth it. You could get very good at something that doesn't pay very well. You could get very good at something that pays very well, but it requires so much of you that you realize the payout, the literal payout of like, well, I get paid a lot, or I have a lot of assets, but like, do I really give a shit about this, or do I want to be doing this for 20 years? Or you see the long term, uh, outcome of people who have been at it, 2, 3, 4 decades. Like, do I want to become that person? You have to choose carefully. Uh, yeah, I always reference this is Japanese, like the Akagi model. It's like, okay, you have something that you love, you have what the world needs, you have what you can get paid for, you have what you're actually good at. You're going to have to try to hit something within that overlap that makes sense for you. You're going to have to try things. And what you can get paid for, might end up being something that you do for a while and you realize like, I actually don't care about this, and you switch over to something else, or maybe you try to merge the two. Yeah, I think the challenge of modern times, the opportunity of modern life is that we get to actually choose, and we get to create our own hybrid. Uh, you know, Conventional career paths, they exist, they're not going away. But because of social media, because we have access to so many different tools now, everyone has access to sort of the uh, same technological innovations that way. We can forge something that is very unique to us. The challenge with that, of course, is that there's no model to follow. Like there's models, there's things that are similar, but you're going to have to figure that out for yourself. Which that's essentially what like entrepreneurship is, being sovereign, and that's very worthwhile. But it's never going to feel firm. It will take a long time to reach that because you're creating that pathway as you go along.
And when you went from ballet, right, like that was strictly just, as you said, artistic, right? And then
Hmm.
You got injured, you couldn't do that anymore. When you set out to say, all right, I'm going to start training personal fitness, was that a purely artistic move as well? Or were you also considering the dynamic of the market that you can make a lot of money in it? Like what,
No.
because you talked about something called the Hokkaji model. I don't know if that's something you
Yeah.
implemented back then or that's something you learned
Ikagi, yeah.
after. Yeah.
Oh, that's something I learned after. No, I mean, I started
Okay.
personal training. It was purely for money because like I was like 19 at the time. I was assessing myself. I was like, okay, my degree, I'm getting a liberal arts degree. Like this was, even years before people made fun of liberal arts degrees. But I actually like dove into like the market research. I'm like, I'm doing something that basically doesn't pay anything. It's like the average, median salary is like $45,000 a year. I'm like, but it has no future to it. Like all the older dancers I met were all broke. I'm like, all right, this degree really isn't worth anything. Like the ultimate example of college inflation and degree inflation of this, like, departments, all these things have been created that serve no purpose. I'm like, great. What job skills do I have? Now, at the time I worked in Silicon Valley uh, as a personal trainer, or I just started working as a personal trainer. I saw these people making crazy money coding. I fucking hate computers. Now, ironically, I work on a computer all day, but like, I don't know how to code. I'm not going to teach myself how to code. I have no interest in that. I didn't grow up around money where I was like, oh yeah, guys are like, yourself working on Wall Street. I didn't even know that existed. I was like, so I was just at this crossroads. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do with myself to like survive? I have no idea. I have no real job skills. I have like, I come across, hopefully as like a calibrated normal person, but like my personality wise, I'm not going to work in an office. I fucking hate being told what to do. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, the only thing the only thing I was doing at the time, I was like, I was in the gym a lot because I was trying to rehab myself. I liked working out. I was like, what if I do personal training? I looked at the numbers. Personal training, you get paid like $15 an hour. At the time in California, minimum wage was like 8, 9. I'm like, oh shit, 15, 20, like $20 an hour. Fuck yeah, man. I had no clue how people became rich. Assets, owning things that pay you money. I was like, the book Rich Dad Poor Dad generally changed my life. People will laugh at that. It's like that book gets dunked on. If you grew up like very blue collar middle class mentality, and your model of money was that someone pays you like a really good hourly wage and that was it, that book was a fucking life changer for me. I'm like, owning a business, owning assets, like working for yourself, holy shit. But like I didn't know how to get there. I just knew that there was an alternative path, right? In personal training, I looked it up. I could get like certified with like a weekend course for like $600, and I could go apply, and I get paid like $19 an hour. It's like I couldn't think of anything else to do. That was the other factor. I'm like, well, what else could I do? I couldn't. Military. I can't run. I tore off my hamstring on my leg. I can't run. I'm like, I considered that, but I'm like, I can't. I physically can't. Like, I can run slow, but like because of my injury, because I tore off tendons, I'm like, I'm permanently fucking disabled. I'm like, in regards to being able to, certain physical capacities. I'm like, all right. I'm like, well, let's just go personal training then. So I went and got the cert, started working as a personal trainer. I remember my first paycheck and I was like, I did the numbers on it, even with the taxes taken out. I'm like, yeah, man, I got paid like $18 an hour. Fuck yeah. And then I was like, well, and now I got the rest of my life to figure out what else I can do. And I kept up with personal training, but I sell personal training also as well. It's an hourly job, right? Highest paid personal trainers in the world, 200, 250 an hour. But you're still working, whatever, like not even 9 to 5. It's like a 6 to 10 kind of job. Or you're working for like a very high net worth client and like you're on their schedule. I did that too. But yeah, I just knew I'm like, I got to find a way to break out of this. I got to find a way to own my own business, do something, have ownership over my time. But it took a while to figure out. Like that was kind of the journey of my 20s of like from 18 to like 27 of like, I've got to figure this out. It was not an overnight process. See, I see young guys now in their earlier 20s, they've got it figured out so much faster than I did. I'm always amazed when I meet younger dudes. I'm like, this guy's like fucking sharp. This guy's a killer. Like he's like 22, already got the game figured out. It took me almost a decade.
I feel the same. Yeah, I'm 31 and still going through the punches. In your story, right? Like, so at this point in time, you graduate liberal arts degree.
Mm-hmm.
You like working out. You move to Silicon Valley. You hate computers. You're making $18 an hour. Super excited about that. Two things is, for one, that caught my attention, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book, and you went to Silicon Valley. Now, is there something that you've learned from that experience of just like investing with this new company, like in terms of getting like VCs to back you?
Mm-hmm.
Or was that something you learned like very recently?
Yeah, that was something I learned more recently. I mean, what the Silicon Valley did when I was working there, it just exposed me to this whole world of people who are building companies. It was not to say like, oh, I learned how venture capital works. It didn't teach me that. I was just amazed that there were people who were raising money, like they like that whole idea of like someone gave you $50 million to like start a company. They just gave it to you, yeah, for equity, right? I'm like that was again like as a young guy not coming from that kind of background, just like changed my world. I'm like, wow, like the world of finance and capital, and there's trillions of dollars out in the world, sort of like at any given time, there's trillions of dollars of money like looking for an opportunity, basically. Like money itself is looking for opportunity. Money is infinite. So yeah, it took me out of sort of like I'd say like sort of the blue collar sort of scarcity mindset, where like money is sort of like this zero sum thing. There's so little of it, and like it's very hard to get. I'm like, there's venture capital firms and private equity and all these things. They're giving out billions at a time, like just trying to find an idea that will give some ROI, right? So that was just really fascinating to me. And then, from there, I moved to Hollywood because, that seemed like the place to be for personal training. And then I got exposed to the entertainment industry. And the entertainment industry really taught me lessons about, I would say, human virtue and having integrity and having purpose to what you do. Certainly taught me a lot about fame, which I expounded on. But when it finally came, for this company, like I'm going to put a company together. As I said, money is always looking for opportunity. At the same time, like, VC world, like it's risk taking. At least they claim it's risk taking. A lot of it's really consensus and like trying to front run a winner. But it gave me a sense of how I could go about this, and the other the factor too with health and fitness. If you're actually good at it, being healthy, knowing how to train, it's a very scientific process of doing complex systems. I find that it maps very well to company building. If you are the founder, you're the CEO. I'm not the technical guy. I'm the one that's leading the team. You have to manage a lot of processes at once. You have to know how things interrelate. You have to know all the systems. You have to be able to reverse engineer an outcome. It's not dissimilar from training periodization.
And to kind of touch upon this piece here, you said you had like a realization that at one point that money is infinite. It's not a zero sum game, meaning, one person wins, the other person loses. What was that moment for you? Was it like while you were building your personal brand on Twitter, or was there another moment specifically?
I mean, it was a series like moments over time, from when I was
Mhm.
like young, even like reading that book, working in Silicon Valley, for a brief period of time, training people in tech, even when we in the entertainment industry, knowing the amount of money that goes into, at that time at least, the amount of money that went into making pictures, making films. Films are $100 million projects, right? It's
Mhm.
quite a crazy thing to think about. Like, you make a movie gets made, the budget's 300 million. Hopefully it makes $1 billion and everybody like, gets a return on it. Or maybe it doesn't. It's like, we just wasted 300 million and now, everyone looks bad because the film got shitty reviews. I'm like what a crazy industry. And this is like to tell a story, right? Like we're going to spend
Right.
$350 million to tell a really cool story that will be on screen. And hopefully that turns into like $1 billion. Like we hope, based upon, essentially like engineering and capturing human psychology and attention. It's, like when you really dig into it, it's like, it's quite miraculous. Um, but yeah, it was it was like those sort of series and events and this points of learning where, whatever scarcity mindset I had over, the way wealth works or, the way money works, I realized that, money is infinite, energy is infinite, human lives aren't infinite. So it really just is what you put your time towards. And then being able to put yourself into a flow of energy, a flow of money that then allows you to direct your capabilities and resources in your team towards a goal, towards an outcome.
And how so in terms of like flow of energy of money? Like, what does that mean exactly?
Well, so money favors energy. Like, why? What people that go into money, right? Like, you work in Wall Street, you work in capital. Like, what's the idea? The idea is that you're going to grow the pot. The idea is that we're going to make investments of some kind, or we're going to make crazy fucking quantum bets of some kind, and there's going to be a return, right? And you can keep pressing that multiplication button, and you get as wild as you want with the number of bits you can make. Certainly like in the world of quants, that's the thing. But so long as humans are in the pursuit of knowledge and they're trying to create things, money will always increase. Money's not going away. It's not shrinking. The only way money shrinks is if an economy, if a civilization of people stop knowledge building and start regressing. And then it has happened in places that certainly that doesn't happen in the United States. The United States is the ultimate engine for human knowledge, for human creation. That's why the US is the US. That's why our economy is what it is.
And so you think knowledge is the foundation. I mean, knowledge is the foundation of money, to simplify,
Yes.
I guess,
Yes.
in my own mind. Yeah.
Yes.
And AJAC, I want to end off with this last question here. So
Yeah.
let's say 10 years from now, your kids search you up on YouTube and they look at this video. They're at the end. They saw all 48 minutes of this. What is one piece of advice you'd give them on life, on business? What is it?
It wouldn't be any different than what I tell them now. Like you gotta be strong, you gotta be courageous. Yeah, like it's very simple. Your role as a father when you have children, keep them safe, provide for them, love them, but they're gonna be adults for longer than they are kids. So you're raising adults. Like that, yeah, that's your job. Your job is to take a child, shape its soul, and then like make it capable of surviving in the world. Quite simply, to survive in the world, you gotta be strong. You have to have courage. If you're weak, if you're scared, life is going to be very, very, very hard for you.
And in your own life, I guess, like being strong and courageous, like, was there moments where you were doing this whole internet stuff and people were kind of just like, what are you doing? Or,
Oh
people
yeah,
doubted you, or
yeah.
you
No,
would
there
say
are many
most
moments.
people, many moments.
There are lots of moments like that, but I never cared. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I've never been someone where other people's opinions about myself or like how to live life, it just don't matter to me. If you're familiar with Rene Girard, mimetics, like mimesis, like we learn by imitation, I never want to have an imitable life. I never looked at anyone else. I'm like, I want to be like that person. I don't
Hmm.
want to be like anybody else. I don't want there to be anyone like me. I don't want anyone to follow and be like, I want to be like you. Be yourself. Don't be like someone else. Don't be like me. Be you. So yeah, I had friends at various junctures of like, you're really like going on this like the internet thing or like blogging or like why do you care so much about like expressing yourself, like you're being too polarizing. Like I don't give a fuck. It just doesn't matter because I am who I am. I feel that I'm in alignment, with my soul. Uh, if I get off base or somehow, or that ends in disaster, at least I earned it and I can recalibrate. I can self-assess. Um, what other people think of it or using someone else as a model to live, I simply don't operate that way.
I love that, man. So, AJAC, where can people find your work? Talk to me.
Yeah,
Plug yourself in.
yeah. So so if the Athenor, so the company's official name is Athenor Chemical Inc. Athenor, we do business as. If you go to athenor.inc.com, if that looks interesting to you, you'd like to help make this happen, I would certainly like to talk. If specialty chemical production and reindustrialization, building a American fortress kind of company sounds cool to you, send me a message. I'm putting together a very deep team of people. I know this is going to take an American village, as I call it. This will be a team effort. It's not just me. Um, but I'm looking to put together an extraordinary group of people who will bring this company to being and make it successful. So I'd love to talk to those people. And then, of course, you can always find me on X. My DMs actually are in fact always open. If there's questions, health stuff, whatever, I'm always happy to help people out.
Amazing, man. Well, AJAC, thank you so much for your time and have a great day, dude.
You
Cheers.
too, brother. Good talking to you.